Hey everybody, welcome back to Audio Hunt. I'm Peter, and as always, I'm here with some gear I got for a low buck, and I'd like to talk to you about how I scored it, what it has in terms of features, why I like it, and what I'm going to do with it. And hopefully you can go out and you can find similar buys for yourself. This amplifier is the first amplifier I've ever owned that has active electronics built into the front end of it. To access a lot of those features, you really need to plug in. There's a little jack in the back here. It's a USB plug, and you go in with a little piece of software on your laptop and you can access all kinds of things. Now, there are also buttons on the front of this particular amplifier you can access some of them with, but I'm too lazy to do that. I prefer to go in and just have one-stop shopping on the laptop. Normally in the past, for things like crossovers, active crossovers that is, crossing over the frequency dividing points before it gets amplified used to mean getting a separate piece of gear and then feeding the signal into an amplifier. Amplifiers now have features like that built right in, and this is one of them. Well, it can be divided into a subwoofer powering coming off one channel, and then a completely separate range of frequencies being powered off the other channel. So it's a biamp. In a mono sense, it's a biamp amplifier just as it sits. It's a fairly powerful amplifier considering it only weighs 21 pounds. This puts out almost 300 watts at 8 ohms, 500 at 4 ohms, and over 700 at 2 ohms. So that's a fair bit of punch for a 20-pound package. Now there's another issue with this amplifier that is central to a lot of the amps I've bought. This amplifier was designed for an installation. Now, an installation amplifier is a little bit different than a road amplifier in that it doesn't have as many output jacks. It's not really designed to necessarily be plugged in and unplugged and moved and then plugged in and unplugged again every time you set up for a gig. A lot of these amplifiers would get bolted into a rack and left there for years, in perhaps like a theatrical setting, something like that. The amplifiers themselves are still the same as road amplifiers in most cases. They just don't quite have the same input and output features. In order to demonstrate that, let's take a look under the hood. Okay, when we look at the back of the amplifier, you can see I've added a few things to the back of this little homemade case I put on it. I'd like to run through those one at a time. You'll get a sense of the type of modifications you might want to make to a amplifier that's not necessarily meant to go on the road every day. For instance, right here, you'll see I've got what we call XLR jacks plugged in there. That's because this unit didn't come with balanced input jacks bolted right on the frame from the factory. It's the same signal going in. I simply have mounted my own jacks, and I've run wires from there into what we call a channel strip on the back. Accomplishes the same thing, I just add a couple little things. Same for the output. I like using speak-on outputs. This amplifier just had, again, channel strip outputs, which are designed to have wires basically just clamped right to them. They look a bit differently, but they do the same thing. So I ran wires from those out to the jacks, and now I just use speak-on right there. It's exactly the same thing as a road amplifier would have. I've just added them on. One thing I really like about this Crown amplifier, other than its lightweight and its high power, is the fact that it has a multi-speed fan in it. It runs really quietly. So if you've got, say, a recording situation going on, and I might be powering an amplifier of some sort or a keyboard with this, it's not as likely to bleed into the microphones that you have recording the event with. So that's a nice feature. Some fans are pretty noisy. So at the end of the day, don't be scared off by an installation amplifier because it looks a little bit different on the back. In most cases, it's exactly the same kind of an amplifier, just with a couple of less jacks thrown. Now I know you're thinking, okay, how much did he pay for that amp? I got this amp about 2 years ago. It had been used, I guess it was on lease or something. They come out of a rack somewhere in a business or something. It had some scratches on it. It had these, like I say, it doesn't have all the jacks on the back. It was an installation amp. But I went in, I was able to read the owner's manual on this before I went in to look at it. There was a preview at the auction. I went in, plugged it in, put some signal in the back, made sure the meters were working. So I was pretty sure it was working. before I put a bid on it. When the gavel fell, I think I paid $180 for this, was my bid. It was a pretty good buy. I've used it dozens of times for different things. A new generation of amplifier, installation amplifiers. Don't be scared off by the little strip inserts on the back. You know you can just put jacks of any kind on there to do the job. Easily available and not hard to do it also. Don't be scared if you see bidding not going up very high on an amplifier. Might just be because people don't know. This is Peter. Thanks a lot for joining me on Audio Hunt. Look forward to talking to you again next week. Take care. Oh, and send me pictures of your best finds. I want to see your scores. If I can, I'll work them into my little show here. I'm into this because I like doing it, and I want to see the stuff that you guys have scored too.